We started converting the vineyard in 2007, and the vines ranged anywhere between 5 and 7 years old. In the beginning plan of how to convert a vineyard from irrigation to dry farmed, we had the idea that we would start implementing irrigation techniques that would reduce the amount of water that the vines would need, forcing them to go down farther or stretch out farther in terms of their overall root balls and fibrous root systems. We irrigated maybe twice during that first summer to allow for those vines to start pushing the water down. We normally did an early season watering, normally found at the middle to end part of May, and then going forward, we gave them another shot of water in July. The following year, we reduced it by half, so we only did a single watering in June, forcing those vines to continue to push down and create a canopy that allowed for them to be sustainable. And the following year, we just reduced it even more by half, so running only an hour in terms of overall watering or irrigation, and then forcing the vines the fourth year to not receive any water from our irrigation system.
We decided to switch from an irrigated vineyard to a dry farmed vineyard because of two reasons. One was fruit quality. Definitely we wanted to produce and grow the best fruit possible up on the mountaintop. The second reason was we had to replace the drip system because it was deteriorating after some years out in the field, and we didn't want to have a waste out there. So for us it was also a pragmatic decision. The transition took 4 years, but the vineyard was set up already to be dry farmed. The period was just to give us enough courage to actually turn the drip line off, because it's a business in the end, but the right rootstock was planted, the right spacing was planted. We actually cultivated in the beginning when we planted the vineyard, so we pruned the top roots and really pushed them down. So I think it was more for us, for our sanity, and not about the capability if we can or if we can't. We had several neutron prop sites on the property. They dug holes down to 7 feet. And we did that for 4 years. And in the 4th year, the consultant came up on the vineyard, had a chat with my father-in-law at the driest spot of the vineyard, and told him that we have enough moisture in our soil to go through a complete additional growing season without turning on the irrigation. And then my father-in-law said, "Thank you very much." And that was it when we decided to turn off the water.
When we purchased Red Barn Ranch, it was sold to us as bare land price minus the cost of removal. We were barely able to get the bare land price together here, so we had to keep the vineyard going. So it was an irrigated Sauvignon Blanc vineyard. We were able to get it off irrigation. Because the roots started driving deeper, we were able to keep the production up on it. We stopped irrigation after the last winter rain and converted it to dry farming. We didn't give it any water that summer. The ground here was pretty good, clay loam in that area, and we just had to really stop the moisture and drive those roots down, because it was sold to us as dead because it had phylloxera. And we had to get those roots down away out of the phylloxera zone. In fact, UC Davis came out a couple years later, dig some core holes around the vines to find out why they were still alive. And they were complaining that they had to go so deep to find the roots. So this immediately started moving the roots down once we stopped the watering and started the cultivating. So I don't irrigate. Now I will use water for frost control. I will use water for heat suppression, but I do not use water for irrigation.